Look around the world today. Everyone wants attention, everyone wants validation, but very few men earn respect. Respect is not given because you talk loud. It's not given because you look tough. And it's definitely not given because you demand it. Respect is felt. It's earned. And once a man truly earns it, he never has to ask for it again. Today, this is not about being liked. This is about becoming a man worthy of respect in your family, in your work, and most importantly, in the mirror. Listen closely, because this message is not for boys. It's for men ready to rise. Number 1, self-discipline. Self-discipline is the invisible line that separates men who are tolerated from men who are respected. Authority is not something you demand, announce, or posture your way into. It is something people feel in your presence before you ever speak. A man with self-discipline moves differently. He doesn't rush, he doesn't fidget, he doesn't need to explain himself excessively. His calm is not accidental. It is earned through thousands of small decisions where he chose control over comfort. When your actions are aligned with your standards every single day, your very posture begins to communicate certainty. People sense that you are not easily shaken, not easily tempted, and not easily manipulated. Self-discipline builds authority because it proves mastery, first over yourself, then over your environment. Any man can talk about ambition, strength, or leadership, but discipline is evidence. It shows that you can delay gratification, endure discomfort, and stay focused when distractions scream for attention. When you consistently do what others avoid, waking up early, training when tired, working when bored, you develop an internal gravity. Others begin to look to you, not because you ask them to, but because your behavior demonstrates reliability. Authority grows when people know you will do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel in the moment. A disciplined man does not negotiate with his impulses. He decides once, then executes repeatedly. This decisiveness creates trust, and trust is the backbone of authority. When your word is consistent with your behavior, people stop questioning you. They stop testing you. They stop doubting your follow-through. Your boundaries become clear without you having to raise your voice or assert dominance. Discipline sharpens your focus, and focus commands attention. In a world full of scattered minds and weak follow-through, clarity becomes commanding. Self-discipline also removes the need for validation. When you are governed by your standards instead of others' opinions, your confidence becomes stable and unshakable. You are not chasing approval, reacting emotionally, or proving yourself in every conversation. This emotional control signals strength. Authority is often lost not through lack of skill, but through lack of composure. A disciplined man remains steady under pressure, measured in response, and intentional in action. That steadiness communicates leadership without a single word spoken. Over time, self-discipline compounds into reputation. People remember who shows up prepared, who stays consistent, who doesn't break under stress. Authority is not built in dramatic moments, but in quiet repetition. The workouts no one sees, the promises kept when it would be easier to quit, the standards upheld when shortcuts are available. Every disciplined choice reinforces the message that you are someone who can be relied upon, someone whose presence brings structure and certainty, someone whose life is governed by order rather than impulse. Number 2, integrity over image. Integrity is the quiet force that determines whether a man is truly respected or merely admired from a distance. Image is easy to construct. It can be curated, filtered, and performed for an audience, but integrity is revealed only when there is no one watching. A man who prioritizes image lives externally, constantly adjusting himself to be accepted, praised, or approved. A man who prioritizes integrity lives internally, guided by principles that do not change with circumstance. People may not always notice integrity immediately, but they feel its weight over time, because consistency between words and actions creates a presence that cannot be faked. Choosing integrity over image means telling the truth when silence would be easier, doing the right thing when shortcuts are available, and standing by your values when compromise would bring comfort. It requires the courage to disappoint others rather than betray yourself. Image-focused men ask, "How does this make me look?" While men of integrity ask, "Is this right?" That difference shapes every decision, every relationship, and every outcome. Integrity builds a foundation that does not collapse under pressure. while image crumbles the moment it is tested. When adversity arrives, people quickly learn who was acting and who was anchored in principle. A man of integrity does not shift his standards based on who is present. His behavior is consistent whether he is in public or alone. This consistency builds trust, and trust is the currency of respect. People may challenge your opinions, but they rarely question your character when integrity is evident. You don't need to explain yourself repeatedly or defend your choices when your actions speak with clarity. Over time, integrity simplifies life because it removes inner conflict. There is no need to remember which version of yourself you presented to whom, because there is only one version. Integrity also demands accountability. It requires owning mistakes without excuses and correcting course without defensiveness. An image-driven man hides failure to protect perception, but a man of integrity faces failure to protect truth. This willingness to be honest about shortcomings strengthens credibility rather than weakening it. People respect a man who can say, "I was wrong," and then prove change through action. Integrity is not perfection, it is alignment between belief and behavior, even when that alignment costs you something in the short term. Over time, integrity creates a reputation that cannot be manufactured. People come to rely on your word because it carries weight. Your decisions carry authority because they are rooted in principle rather than popularity. While image fades with trends and opinions, integrity endures across seasons, building a life where respect is not chased, negotiated, or demanded, but naturally granted through the quiet power of unwavering character. Number 3, responsibility is power. Responsibility is often misunderstood as pressure, obligation, or limitation. But in reality, it is the gateway to personal power. The moment a man takes full ownership of his life, his choices, and his outcomes, he stops living at the mercy of circumstances. Blame is comfortable because it removes accountability, but it also removes control. When you blame people, systems, or past events, you surrender your ability to change anything. Responsibility reverses that dynamic. It places control back in your hands by forcing you to confront reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. A man who accepts responsibility does not wait for permission to improve his life. He does not expect rescue, validation, or perfect conditions. He understands that his situation, whether strong or weak, is a reflection of his decisions repeated over time. This awareness is not heavy, it is liberating. Once you accept that your results are your responsibility, you gain the authority to create new results. You stop asking who failed you and start asking what you can do next. That shift in thinking transforms obstacles into challenges and problems into training grounds. Responsibility also builds respect because it signals maturity. A man who owns his actions, admits his mistakes, and corrects his course without complaint stands out in a world addicted to excuses. He doesn't waste energy defending his ego or justifying failure. Instead, he channels his energy into solutions. This mindset attracts trust. People know that when something goes wrong, he will handle it rather than hide from it. Power grows when others see that you are dependable under pressure and willing to carry weight without resentment. Taking responsibility sharpens decision-making. When you know you cannot outsource the consequences of your choices, you think more clearly and act more deliberately. You become proactive instead of reactive. You prepare instead of hoping. Responsibility forces you to develop discipline, resilience, and foresight because comfort is no longer the goal, competence is. Each time you take ownership in difficult moments, your confidence deepens. Not from arrogance, but from evidence that you can face reality and respond effectively. Over time, responsibility transforms your identity. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and start seeing yourself as a creator within it. Your presence changes because you are no longer waiting for things to happen. You are making them happen. This internal shift radiates outward, influencing how people respond to you, how opportunities appear, and how challenges are approached. Responsibility does not weigh a man down, it anchors him, giving him the strength to stand firm, the clarity to lead, and the power to shape his own path. Number 4, strength with restraint. Strength is often confused with force, volume, and domination, but real strength reveals itself through restraint. Anyone can react, lash out, or assert power in the moment, but it takes a disciplined man to pause, assess, and choose his response deliberately. Restraint is not weakness, it is evidence of control. When a man can regulate his emotions instead of being ruled by them, he demonstrates a level of mastery that commands respect. His calm is not passive, it is intentional, grounded in confidence rather than fear. A man with strength and restraint does not need to prove himself through aggression or constant assertion. He understands that power displayed unnecessarily becomes insecurity. By choosing when to speak, when to act, and when to remain silent, he preserves his energy and sharpens his impact. Emotional restraint allows him to think clearly under pressure, where others collapse into impulse. In heated situations, his composure becomes a stabilizing force, and people instinctively look to him for direction because he is not consumed by the chaos around him. Restraint also protects dignity. A man who reacts to every provocation gives control to others, allowing them to dictate his behavior. True strength lies in refusing to be pulled into battles that do not serve your values or your future. When you do not rise to every insult or distraction, you communicate that your time, focus, and identity are not easily threatened. This self-possession signals authority. People sense when a man cannot be manipulated emotionally, and that awareness changes how they treat him. Physical, mental, and emotional restraint work together to form a complete expression of strength. Physically, it means knowing you are capable but choosing control. Mentally, it means resisting impulsive decisions in favor of long-term outcomes. Emotionally, it means acknowledging feelings without allowing them to dictate your actions. This balance creates a man who is firm without being rigid, assertive without being reckless, and confident without being loud. Restraint refines power, turning raw force into precision. Over time, strength with restraint builds trust and respect because it proves reliability. People feel safe around a man who does not overreact, escalate unnecessarily, or allow ego to override judgment. His presence brings order rather than tension. He does not need to dominate a room because his composure already sets the tone. When action is required, his response carries weight precisely because it is measured and intentional, revealing a depth of strength that is controlled, focused, and unmistakably real. Number 5, consistency builds. Legacy. Consistency is the quiet architect of legacy. Grand moments may capture attention, but it is repetition that shapes reputation. A man is not remembered for what he does once, but for what he does repeatedly. Consistency turns intentions into identity by aligning daily actions with long-term values. When your behavior remains steady regardless of mood, circumstance, or recognition, people begin to associate you with reliability. Over time, this reliability becomes the foundation of respect because it proves that your character is not situational but ingrained. A consistent man understands that excellence is not an event but a standard. He does not wait for motivation to act, nor does he depend on inspiration to show up. He operates from commitment, doing the work even when it feels mundane or unrewarding. This discipline separates him from those who rely on bursts of effort followed by long periods of inaction. Consistency compounds, transforming small, repeated efforts into significant results that appear inevitable to those who only notice the outcome, not the process behind it. Consistency also builds trust in relationships and leadership. People feel secure when they know what to expect from you, when your values do not fluctuate with convenience or pressure. A man who is consistent in his principles, work ethic, and treatment of others creates stability in uncertain environments. This stability attracts responsibility and influence because people prefer to follow someone whose actions align predictably with their words. Over time, consistency eliminates doubt. You no longer need to explain yourself or reestablish credibility because your history already speaks. Legacy is not formed through intensity alone, but through endurance. Many men start strong, fueled by emotion and ambition, but few sustain effort when novelty fades. Consistency requires patience and humility, the willingness to stay committed without immediate reward. It demands the discipline to keep standards high even when no one is watching and progress feels slow. This endurance shapes not only outcomes but identity, reinforcing the belief that you are someone who finishes what he starts. Over years, consistency creates a body of work that outlives momentary recognition. It shapes how people remember you, how your name is spoken when you are not present, and how your influence continues beyond your immediate reach. A consistent man leaves behind more than achievements. He leaves behind a pattern, a standard, and an example that others measure themselves against, proving that true legacy is built one disciplined day at a time. Number 6, service beyond self. Service beyond self is the highest expression of strength because it requires a man to look past his own comfort, recognition, and immediate gain. A life focused only on personal advancement eventually becomes narrow and fragile, but a life rooted in service expands in meaning and impact. When a man commits to adding value to others, he develops depth of character that cannot be achieved through self-interest alone. Service shifts perspective, reminding him that his abilities, discipline, and growth are not solely for his own benefit, but for the good they can create in the lives around him. A man who lives in service does not seek applause or validation. His actions are driven by responsibility rather than ego. He understands that leadership is not about control, but about contribution. Whether in family, work, or community, he looks for ways to strengthen others, protect what matters, and build something that will endure. This mindset cultivates humility without diminishing confidence. Serving others does not make him smaller. It makes his influence wider and more respected because people recognize sincerity when it is not tied to personal gain. Service also sharpens discipline and purpose. When your actions affect more than just yourself, standards rise naturally. You prepare more thoroughly, act more carefully, and follow through more consistently because others are depending on you. This sense of duty builds inner strength, reinforcing the idea that your choices carry weight. A man who serves becomes someone others trust, not because he claims authority, but because his actions prove commitment to something greater than his own convenience. Living beyond self-interest also deepens resilience. A man anchored in service can endure hardship with greater clarity because his struggle has meaning. He is not suffering aimlessly. He is carrying responsibility. This gives pain context and transforms sacrifice into purpose. When challenges arise, he does not retreat inward or become consumed by self-pity. Instead, he asks how he can still contribute, still lead, still stand firm for others, even when circumstances are difficult. Over time, service creates a legacy of impact rather than ego. People remember how you made them feel, how you showed up when it mattered, and how your presence improved their lives. A man who serves beyond himself builds respect that is not forced or demanded, but freely given because his life consistently demonstrates generosity of effort, strength of character, and a commitment to leave people and places better than he found them. Be the man whose actions speak before his words ever do. Choose discipline over comfort, integrity over image, and responsibility over excuses. Live with strength, restraint, consistency, and service at your core. Do this daily, and respect will follow you without being asked.